Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to connect some dots that seem, well, worlds apart. We're going from the deepest, strangest levels of physics all the way up to how we can solve some of the most complex problems we face today. So, it all kicks off with a really interesting question. What on earth could the bizarre world of quantum mechanics possibly have in common with ancient wisdom? The answer? Well, it might just flip your whole view of reality on its head. To get there, we've got to start small, like really small. We're talking about the fundamental nature of reality itself, and we're going to challenge an idea that, honestly, feels like total common sense. You know, Albert Einstein put our everyday intuition into words perfectly. We look around and we see a world of separate things, right? There's a coffee cup here, a book over there. They're distinct, they're independent. That's the classical worldview. But as we started looking closer, a lot closer, that common sense view started to, well, fall apart. And right there, you've got a huge conflict. The classical idea, separability, just feels right. But quantum mechanics comes along and shows us something called non-separability. It's this wild idea that tells us what happens to a particle right here can be instantly connected to a particle way, way over there. You can't even describe one without talking about the other. And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. It's a real, proven phenomenon called entanglement. Seriously, two objects, far apart, can literally form a single entity. If you poke one, the other one quivers at the exact same time. This discovery forces us to completely rethink what the building blocks of our world even are. So this radical idea, this concept that the world isn't just a collection of separate little bits, it actually has a name. And it's the glue that holds everything we're talking about today together. It's called holism. Holism is really the core idea that a system can have qualities and behaviors that you just can't see by looking at its individual parts. Think about it this way. You can't understand the wetness of water by studying a single H2O molecule, right? Well, quantum mechanics suggests that reality itself has these kinds of holistic properties. The whole is truly more than the sum of its parts. And what this shows us is that holism isn't just some vague, fuzzy concept. No. In modern physics, it's a real solid idea with different flavors. You've got property holism, which we see in those entangled states, and even ontological holism, which makes you question what an object even is. Science is actually grappling with a world that seems to be fundamentally interconnected. Okay, so how do we get from quantum weirdness to the big problems we face every single day? Well, if reality itself is holistic, doesn't it make sense that our thinking should be too? Let's take something like acid rain. Is it a chemistry problem? Yep. A biology problem? For sure. But it's also an economic and a political problem, right? You can't solve it by just looking at one piece of the puzzle. These are what we call complex systems, where all the different sides of the problem are woven together into one big thing. And that's where we need a completely new toolkit. Interdisciplinary study is basically the how-to guide for holistic thinking. It's the method we have to use when a problem is just too tangled up for any one field to handle on its own. It's how we build a much more complete picture. And it's not some magical, mysterious process. It's actually a pretty clear method. First, you gather insights from all the different fields. Then you pinpoint where they conflict, like when a biologist and an economist use the word efficiency to mean two totally different things. From there, you work to create common ground, and eventually build a new, much richer understanding that sees the whole picture. All right, let's take this one step further. What if this holistic way of thinking could bridge gaps that are even bigger than academic departments? What about bridging entire ways of knowing? This brings us to something really fascinating, indigenous knowledge, or IK. We're talking about entire systems of understanding built over centuries based on a holistic view of the world. They reflect this incredibly deep, systematic connection to local environments and how to live sustainably within them. This isn't just an alternative to science. It's another incredibly powerful, deeply integrated way of knowing the world. And when you start weaving these two ways of knowing together, man, the effect is powerful. Study after study shows that bringing indigenous knowledge into science class has incredible results. Students don't just learn more, they think more critically, they have a deeper appreciation for nature, and they actually get a much fuller picture of what science itself is and can be. So you see the pattern here, right? From the tiniest entangled particles all the way up to these huge systems of human knowledge, there's this single powerful idea that keeps showing up again and again. let's just jump back to physics for a second, because this quote really ties it all together. It suggests that maybe this weird non-separateness we see with quantum particles isn't the final story. What if those entangled particles that look like two separate things are really just scattered reflections of one single unified reality that underpins everything? And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. If the entire universe, from its smallest bits to its most complex systems, is fundamentally all connected, what could we actually achieve if we stopped just looking at the tiny pieces and really started looking at the whole picture? Just think about the problems we could finally solve.